Joey McGuire is going to have to replace both coordinators now, as Zach Kittley is set to leave the 806 and head to Boca Raton, Florida, to become the Florida Atlantic Owls head coach. In today's video, we'll break down the breaking news from On3, who first reported it on Twitter, what it means for Texas Tech, and much more. Hey, how's it going, everybody? It's RC Maxfield here for the Back to 12 podcast, and give me your one-word reaction to Zach Kittley leaving Texas Tech and heading to the East Coast, over to Boca Raton, Florida, to be the Florida Atlantic Owls head coach. Just one word. I know he is a somewhat divisive guy in terms of how you feel about him on social media. Zach Kittley himself isn't divisive, but the topic of Zach Kittley is divisive within Red Raider Nation. Let me know your one word down on the pinned comment below. And if you haven't already, be sure to like the video, hit that subscribe button, and turn on that notification bell to join the largest and most interactive Texas Tech YouTube channel. And the best part about it, it's 100% free. All right, we're going to jump into this and go right to the On3 article here. They were the first one to break the news in terms of Zach Kittley emerging as the top candidate for Florida Atlantic. And, well, now it's being reported he will be the Owls head coach. Now, we both know, when I say both, obviously you watching here, that Zach Kittley got his start at Houston Baptist. He played Texas Tech. We remember that. And then he went on to Western Kentucky to set all kinds of records with Bailey Zappi, right? Now you have Zach Kittley heading on over to replace Tom Herman, the former UT coach, who last month, after just 1+ seasons where the Owls went 6-16, got the axe. Kittley was tied to the Oklahoma offensive coordinator search and the Rice head coaching job earlier in this cycle. Oklahoma instead went with the offensive coordinator from Washington State. They weren't done there, though, was On3. Kittley has been prolific on offense for years in terms of specifically talking about his offenses. Obviously, he previously served in various roles under Cliff Kingsbury. He was known because of the Patrick Mahomes aspect of things. And athletic director Brian Wright will try to revamp the FAU program with Kittley's offense. His offense sat at the top of the Big 12 this season, scoring 38.6 points per game. And in 2022, Texas Tech was the number 2 offense in the league, averaging 461 yards per game. Kittley interviewed for the FAU job on Sunday and is still in Boca Raton as of Monday afternoon on December 2nd. Now, there's a lot to unpack here as I get back on the screen. The biggest thing for Texas Tech here is they are going to have to replace both coordinators now. And that is a tall task to ask for any head coach, let alone one that is coming off of pretty big success in terms of Texas Tech. Obviously, it's not where you want to go, but it is the first time in 15 seasons that the Red Raiders have won 8 games in the regular season. Now you've let go of Tim DeRuyter. You've let go of Zach Kittley in terms of letting him go to be a head coach for the first time in his career. Where do you go from here? I think there's a ton of options, but I think also it's going to be very, very interesting, in my opinion, to kind of see where Texas Tech fans lie on this, in the sense that I mentioned it earlier in the video. He is very divisive in terms of not him, but the topic of Zach Kittley is very divisive in the Texas Tech space. I feel like there's no middle ground with him in terms of you were a truther, in terms of you like the things that he did, or you absolutely despised him and wanted him fired. Well, now he's gone, regardless of what side you're on. And now, this is my estimation of this. It's a be careful what you wish for situation, in my opinion, because, again, maybe I'm on the truther side of Zach Kittley now, but it is very difficult to find an offensive coordinator that has had the success that Zach Kittley had. Sure, throw it at the fact that he has Taj Brooks. Throw it at the fact that he had Josh Kelly, Baron Morton, whatever it may be. But good offensive coordinators let those star players produce, and that is exactly what he did. And now Texas Tech will go into a pivotal offseason, because now the expectation in Red Raider Nation is that you win 8 games. You got it now. Now that's the minimum. But now you have to replace both coordinators, and one of those coordinators just led you with the highest scoring offense in the Big 12, a top 10 scoring offense in the country, and a top 10 total offense in the country. and now you're replacing him. Where do you go? And this isn't even from the fact that we're not even talking about the personnel changes you're going to have next year if you're Texas Tech. No Taj Brooks, the aforementioned Taj Brooks, who's going to have his name etched in stone and on the side of the Jones one day, right? The all-time leading rusher, a guy in Zach Kittley that broke a mark that stood for 6 years in terms of no Texas Tech wide receiver or pass catcher having 1,000 yards in a season. Baron Morton had the best season of his career in this offense. What do you have coming back? It's the portal era. Who knows, right? But you would hope that you have Coy Aiken. You hope that you have Payday coming back on the other side. But there are a lot of question marks on this Texas Tech offense, even if Zach Kittley stayed. Now he's leaving for Boca Raton, and the question marks just get that much bigger, right? You've heard people say, hey, we're going to go out and we're going to spend a ton of money on an offensive line. Okay, that's cool. But also at the same time, you have to have a play caller. And Zach Kittley, like it or not, people, the stats back it up, and maybe you're an eyeball test person, but I think the biggest objective of an offensive coordinator is to score points, and he scored 31 points against bowl teams this year. That's a pretty damn good mark. I've had people on Twitter coming at me saying, 31 is, average. It was 45th in the country, RC. Well, look at what Iowa State did. If you just have a solid defense, even just a respectable defense, Texas Tech probably wins a game or two, and they're playing in Arlington next weekend. But instead, the offense held up its end of the bargain with Zach Kittley as the offensive coordinator. The defense did not. And now you're in a pivotal offseason where you're going to have to go big game portal hunting. If you're the Red Raiders on the offensive line, you're going to have to go add another wide receiver or two because you lose a guy in Micah Hudson who you thought would replace Josh Kelly there in the slot. But most importantly now, you are losing a guy in Zach Kittley that was a proven commodity, like it or not, in the Big 12. And that is easier said than done. Where does Texas Tech go from here? I'm not entirely sure. I think that there's going to be a lot of people interested in this job because of the notoriety and the profile that Texas Tech is known as an offensive school. I think that's going to be appealing. Also, there's a lot of appealing pieces on this roster. That said, you wonder how fast this has to go because, again, you're not just getting one coordinator. You've got to get two, and then you've got to get all the other position groups as well in terms of the coaching staff. You almost don't want to rush this. You want to make sure you get the right guy, but I'd be remiss not to mention, do y'all know what opens up on Sunday after the Big 12 title game? The portal. You're going to have to go out there and be aggressive. You might have to have an offensive coordinator by then. This is going to happen quickly, just like it happened quickly in the sense of him going out to Boca Raton and interviewing on Sunday, and him probably being one of those guys where it's like, hey, on Monday, he was still out there. Right? He is now the head coach at FAU, okay? Texas Tech is in a vulnerable spot in terms of, listen, it's not easy replacing two coordinators or maybe a potential whole offensive staff. Who knows who he takes with him, right? But Texas Tech is going to have to do something they haven't done in a long time, and that is replace both coordinators. As we know, Tim DeRuyter was fired, as well as Marcel Yates on the defensive side of the football. And now the breaking news into Texas Tech football is that Zach Kittley will leave the 806 for his first head coaching job in the collegiate ranks and head to Boca Raton to be the head coach of the Florida Atlantic Owls, replacing Tom Herman, who went 6-16 in his year and a half out there in Boca Raton. Again, give me your one-word reaction to Zach Kittley leaving Texas Tech to be the FAU head coach. For me, this is a big deal. I think this is a big deal for Texas Tech to try and figure something out here. We'll see where they go. As always, you know what to do. Like the video, hit that subscribe button, and turn on that notification bell to stay in the know on all things Texas Tech football all year long. We've got you covered on the portal. We'll have you covered when it comes down to these coordinator searches and everything in between. So join the largest group on YouTube of Texas Tech fans, and the best part about it, it's 100% free. So join the Back to 12 squad today.